Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships. As this video was intended to be over a week ago on our traditional Saturday upgrade and commit rebuild videos, but I totally spaced it, and in my mind I imagined I had done it, and I indeed had not. So on this Tuesday, we are doing an upgrade and commit rebuild of the Tier 6 French battleship, battlecruiser, the Dunkerque, being a premium ship in World Warships. So you can see I have the black Dunkerque black version, which I kind of like. I know some people aren't fans of the black version, but I really like it, and I'd like to have it in Massachusetts, but I own Massachusetts already, and I don't really want to pay for the Massachusetts again just to have that. So let's talk about what type of battleship we are dealing with. The Dunkerque falls more into that line of the battle cruiser category. She has good speed, but she is by no means tanky. When we begin to look at the armor layout, the Dunkerque, especially when you are bottom tiered, battleships that are tier 8 looking at you are drooling because your armor is just so weak. You're just coated with this 26mm plating, and it's just you eat a lot of damage real quick at tier, if you're bottom tier, which hopefully doesn't happen to you in Dunkerque. And also, depending on what you're facing at tier 6, you could be taking a lot of pain if you're not paying attention. You can see that the Citadel, of course, is going to go up past the forward main battery turret, and it comes just back to behind these secondary guns here on the rear of the ship. So Citadel is slightly above waterline, so you have no reason to be showing broadside unless you're turning away, disengaging from a flank. Ideally, you're always kind of this bow in, or maybe a little slightly angled, right? But the weakness is, of course, you don't have anything going on. No main batteries on the rear of the ship. You just have these secondary turrets. So these 130mm turrets across the ship on the back here. Oh, I'm sorry, they are 130mm. They're just different category here. Interesting. So yeah, so the range of these bad boys is 5.9 kilometers with a 5-second reload time. I mean, yeah, it's going to help you when you're maybe have a destroyer running up behind you, but that is the downside to Dunkerque when you're running away from a flank or having to disengage. Usually you're kind of angled back with the turrets looking back behind you. So just keep that in mind in the Dunkerque. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the modules. Premium ship, no upgradable modules here. Reload time on the main battery of these 330mm guns is 26 seconds with a 28.8 second 180 degree turn time, which actually isn't that bad. HE shell damage 4800, and then AP shell damage 9700. These guns definitely hurt when you're get the broadside of a cruiser with the AP, because you're not going to overpin as much, in my experience. The hull, you can see 52,600 hit points. We come to the gunfire control system. You have 18.2 kilometer main battery firing range. You can also extend this out further, which with the spotting aircraft. We'll talk about that here shortly. And then you have a notable 29.5 knots maximum speed with the propulsion. So you're definitely a lot faster than something like West Virginia, New Mexico, New York, tier 5. So that's nice. So you have this speed, and she's kind of meant that way since she's more this battle cruiser. So you can kind of get around the map a little bit quicker than you can with other tier 6 battleships in the game. I think even Queen Elizabeth is rather slow. That's the tier 6 British battleship. So moving on to upgrades, you have 4 slots. You can see the first slot, we have the main armaments modification 1. Increases survivability and accelerates repairs of the main battery and torpedo tubes, which this is just for the main battery. Risk of main battery becoming incapacitated, negative 20%. Main battery survivability, plus 50%. Main battery repair time, if they do get knocked out, negative 20%. So it is really important on the Dunkerque, the French battleship like this, to keep your guns in action, because if one of these gets incapacitated temporarily, you're only up down to 50% firepower, and then heaven forbid one of these gets perma-knocked. That's just not good. So you really want to be able to keep this main battery going. Auxiliary armaments is for secondary and AA, and the AA is kind of crap on Dunkirk, especially, I mean, it's crap versus tier 6, I would say. Terrible, very terrible. If you get up tiered and facing tier 8 CVs, you will not be able to defend yourself whatsoever. Magazine modification, risk of your ship's magazine detonating, negative 70%. If you've been around here long enough, you just know if you're in random ranked clan battles, you're going to want to take the Juliet Charlie combat signal, which completely eliminates risk of your ship's magazine detonating. Spotting aircraft, I wouldn't really mess with this. We'll talk more about that with the consumable here shortly. Damage control party increases the action time of damage control party. Again, no, this really is what you want for reasons I just discussed in talking about the main armaments modification 1. Slot 2, you get 2 options. You can see we have mounted the damage control system modification 1, which reduces the risk of fire and flooding. Risk of catching fire, negative 5%. Risk of flooding, negative 3%. Because Dunkirk is really fragile with that coated 26mm plating, you want to do whatever you can to reduce your risk of taking damage from flooding and fire, so this is very helpful. Engine room protection, I have not really experienced so much of having my engine knocked out. Maybe taking a torpedo in the rear if you're kiting away and there's torpedoes coming up behind you. Otherwise, you really want to be able to have the damage control system modification 1. Slot 3, there's 2 main options in my mind. One of those being the main battery modification 2, which increases the traverse speed of the main turrets, which we talked about already, and they have a 28.8 second degree turn time, 180 degree turn time, which actually is not bad. I mean, if you really want to buff this up more, you can, of course, by plus 15%. So then maybe you're down to like something like, I don't know, 25 seconds, just shooting off the top of my head. Yeah, secondary battery modification. I don't think I'd really recommend going for a secondary build on the Dunkirk. I mean, yeah, you can increase your secondary range and then with a combat signal as well. I've not seen it in action. I mean, I would be curious if there's someone here watching this video who runs this to let me know in the comments. I mean, I've seen the Jean Bar, the premium tier 9 battleship, French battleship, do secondary builds, and those things can be rather nasty. But I don't think Dunkirk is that secondary type battleship when you have, you know, some of the American battleships, in particular, definitely the German battleships, battle cruisers that do that role much better. Again, the AA is just terrible on the ship. Can't really make it any better. I mean, of course, you can spec it up a little bit. The rating of the AA is 44. But again, to me, you want to do something else like main battery modification 2 or aiming systems modification 1. The main reason I take this is for the maximum main battery shell dispersion. It was reduced by 7%. So your maximum horizontal dispersion and your maximum vertical dispersion are lessened, decreased, in the sense of your dispersion ellipse is even getting tighter in terms of meters. So you're having a slightly tighter grouping with your main battery salvos. That's the main reason why I like taking the aiming systems modification, just because there's so much around this ship that really revolves around your main battery being your primary source of damage. You also get a slight buff on your maximum or your firing battery range for your secondaries, plus 5%, and then the maximum secondary battery shell dispersion, negative 5%. So a little buff there, okay? Slot 4. You can see right now I have the damage control system modification 2 mounted. Accelerates fire extinguishing and recovery from flooding, negative 15%. So again, we're promoting the survivability of the Dunkirk and taking this upgrade. That is what I prefer happening here. The other options when we're talking about propulsion, steering gears, let's look at the maneuverability. Rudder shift time, 14 seconds. It's actually not that far from the Massachusetts at tier 8. Interesting. I don't really see the value in taking these. I prefer the damage control system modifications to typically on pretty much all battleships. Just because you are going to be noticed. Destroyers will be shooting at you in smoke, cruisers, the works. And Dunkirk is just kind of that fragile battle cruiser. So that's why I recommend taking this. The airstrike modification, really your buff, what you're getting out of this is the depth charge airstrike. But again, we were not seeing a lot of submarines at this point in time as I record this video, and because they're still broken and they need fixed, and we're not going to go into all that. But there's still several things that need to be addressed with submarines. But I mean, you're always going to need this regardless, right? Flooding and firing. There's always going to be torpedoes. There's always going to be HE spam. Do yourself a favor and get the damage control system modification too. Let's talk about the consumables. So you get a damage control party. You can see right now we have the action time at 16.5 seconds. That's related to our commander build of our 19-point commander. Reload time of 80 seconds. And you have an unlimited number of charges for the damage control party here, also known as DCP. We have 5 repair parties. 4 is what you come with stock unless you go for a certain commander skill, which gives you 5. I had that mounted. Right now you can see our HP per second is at 263. We look at the exterior, put a mount in India Delta combat signal, and it's going to jump up to 315. So you're improving your ability to heal and stay in the fight that much longer. Consumable action time is 30.8 seconds. Without that commander skill I'm referencing, it'd be 28. Reload time, 80 seconds, and the 5. Now let's talk about the fighter and the spotting aircraft. I take fighter just because the AA on the Dunkirk, to me, is it's bad. It's not good when we're looking over these things. You have continuous damage, 91. You look here at the short range AA, 105. Medium AA, 25. Wow. Damage by long range AA, 84. So this is not an AA battle cruiser, battleship by any means. Your priority sector reinforcement is just 35%. You do have 6-kilometer firing range, and you get a bit more investment on if a aircraft carrier player flies into your flak, then you get a bit more damage there. So because of the AA being rather crap, that's why I take fighter, or you can see I have mounted here. You get 2 fighters, 60-second consumable action time, an action radius of 3 kilometers, and reload time of 90 seconds. So sometimes this helps serve as a deterrent for an enemy aircraft carrier player. Sometimes you have these carrier players at tier 6 who are uncertain, and they see you pop a fighter, like, oh, he's got a fighter up, let me just go strike this other guy next to him, or I'll come back to him later kind of thing. So I like to be able to punish an aircraft carrier player who does come at me with planes. I mean, these fighters are not going to stop the first strike, but it might shoot down half his squadron after the first attack if they pick up. That's why I like fighter. Spotting aircraft. This extends your main battery firing range by 20%. So when you have your gun range now at 18.2 kilometer, spotting aircraft is really nice if you end up being bottom tier versus tier 8 battleships, cruisers, destroyers, because then you're even feeling more apprehensive about getting close. I mean, honestly, Dunkirk struggles to play at long range. She's more of a 12-kilometer range, closer range fighting battleship, just to get the most out of her main battery guns, utilizing island coverage, things like that. So then I can see I place a higher value on spotting aircraft if I'm bottom tiered, tier 8. But I really like the fighter because the fighter coverage of this action radius of 3 kilometers When you pop it, you might catch a destroyer on the other island who wants to yell at you or something, give you time to prepare, that kind of thing. So for those reasons, I prefer fighter over the spotting aircraft. I mean, if these guns were bigger and heavier hitting, then maybe I'd lean more towards spotting aircraft, but they're not. They're just these 330 millimeter guns. So let's talk about the commander. So you can see right now we have a 19-point commander on. We're going to end up having 3 points left, all said and done. But I'll walk you down how I have this commander currently worked on with the Dunkerque. This is also the same commander I run on my Bourgogne. So starting off here, preventive maintenance. When I was doing some reading a while back, I kind of understood the significance of the French battleships. Their main turrets can be more easily knocked out. And one of my viewers was also talking about that the other day when I was doing an upgrading commander build on the Monarch. So that's why, one of the reasons why I like running preventive maintenance, just because I know these turrets are a little more fragile. I mean, when we actually look at the turrets on the Dunkerque, let's do armor layout, okay? I mean, it's not like it's this slope angle thing going on here, right? It's kind of somewhat boxy. I mean, 330, 250, and then the back, 335, top, 150. So, I mean, they're not the tankiest main battery turrets in the world. So that's why I like running preventive maintenance. Not only for the main turrets, but also steering gears and engine from becoming incapacitated is reduced. So that's what I'd suggest as a 1-point commander. For a 3-point, I would recommend going for grease the gears. I have this Charles Henry Honoré. I don't know. I'm trying to be French with my pronunciation there, and I probably just completely butchered it. 25% instead of the standard 20% on the main battery traverse speed. So this is a guy you can pick up in the armory. Probably should have talked about that first before diving into these skills, but we'll hop over to the armory and I will showcase him to you and see if there's also if he had a twin or not. So scroll down here. Aha! Does right? No. Yeah, that's Dutch. Let's see. Yeah, he's here. I'm not sure if he was for 35,000 coal or 1,500 doubloons. Oh, 1,500 doubloons. It's been a day, right? So 1,500 doubloons, you can pick him up. And I like this for the Battleship a lot. I mean, both of these skills work really well with the enhanced adrenaline rush. I think I also run this guy on my Marceau right now, premium tier 10 French destroyer. So you can pick them up here for 1,500 doubloons. It's just nice when you start getting these French ships and you're going up a line to be able to start increasing their skill level sooner rather than later, you know. So he's nice. So yeah, 3-point, 6-point adrenaline rush, which has the enhanced skill of 0.25% instead of a 0.20%. So we get a little bit faster buff as we lose health. Each 1% of HP lost, we get this little additional buff on the reload time of our main battery, our airstrike, secondary battery, and a increase of continuous AA damage, which, I mean, again, your AA sucks on the Dunkerque. So really it's the main battery is the prime light right here. Don't know how to say that. So 6 points for a 10-point. Let's first check out the detectability range by sea. It's 14.8. And we already actually have, we have the concealment expert mounted. We have a camouflage on. So that's the max value you can get down. Especially when you are a bottom tier, because this is the thing that happens. Versus tier 8, you want to be able to go dark. The last thing is you want to be detected 16 kilometers away, and ships are, tier 8, North Carolina, in Congress, and Bismarck, and, just those ships lighting you up. Amagi. You want to be able to have as least concealment as possible or the most concealment possible, I guess I should say. Still, decreasing your detectability range is really good. So honestly, that's actually what I went for first, I believe, with this commander. That's what I'd recommend first going with as a 10 point, just to get your concealment down. The next up is I would recommend the Fire Prevention Expert. This reduces the risk of catching fire by negative 10% and maximum number of fires, -1. So there are 4 places on a ship where you can get fires on. You can have one here on the bow, one on the forward part of superstructure, the rear part of superstructure, and the stern. What the fire prevention does is the 2 fires you get on your superstructure, instead of there being 2, there's only 1. It's like kind of in the center. So that means you're taking less damage, you're increasing your endurance, stamina, survivability. So fire prevention is very helpful, especially as you begin to ascend out of the mid tiers, and again, heaven forbid you versus tier 8 in this ship, where you even increases chance of HE starting fires on you. So that is the power of the Fire Prevention Expert. So that's 14 points. For 18 points, I'd recommend the Emergency Repair Expert. It extends the action time of your damage control party by plus 10%. So that took us from that 28 to 30.8 seconds. We have an unlimited amount of damage control parties already. Repair party consumable action time plus 10 seconds. So that increase it there. Sorry, that was 30.8 on the repair party consumable and 16.5 on the damage control party, that plus 10%. And then we also get an additional heal. I've not been in a situation quite yet, I think, where I've needed a 5th heal. I don't think I got down to burning through all those heals in the video I featured at the Dunkerque over a week ago. And that will be in the link in the description below, and you can catch it at the end screen if you want to check that battle out. But again, you get some nice little additional perks beyond just the 5th repair party. After this, I want to go for basics of survivability. Module restoration time, if a module gets knocked out, -15%, and we are further decreasing our chances of being set afire or flooding by -15%. So really this is, again, I would say this is a fairly standard battleship build that you're going to come across here in World of Warships. If your ship's not specialized in a certain direction, so let's say something more like the secondary, the brawling type battleships, but here we are going for increasing a lot of defensive skills, is what you're seeing right here when we're looking over them, where we only have this as an attack skill, and they have this as an attack skill, and then this should be a defense skill. So really leaning more towards increasing the defensive skills of your commander on the Dunkerque, I think really goes a long way. Let's say you're a player who maybe not all about this. Maybe you're like wondering what are some other type of builds you could do. I could see the value of priority target, just because you're a fragile battle cruiser. I mean, you're a battleship, but you're a fragile battleship, but you're a battle cruiser. Perhaps it's good to know what enemy ships are targeting you. If you start seeing this number go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 targeting you, it usually means you should go dark, disengage, you've overextended. So it just helps you have that situational awareness. If there's a battleship even trying to snap you at a distance, you can kind of look around, see who's aiming at you, if you can see them. So priority target is nice in that regard. And then if I went for priority target, what else would I go with? What is our fire starting chance? 35%. Interesting. So you could increase your chances of causing fire, 10% on secondaries, 36%, and you can actually get this up higher with some combat signals, like what, 37, 38%. So you can be a little bit more that HE slinging French battleship. Alternatively, you could go for the emergency repair specialist. Reload time of damage control party, -3%. Repair party consumable reload time, -3%. Means it's coming on a little bit faster. Or this is a very good skill as well. Time taken to switch between shell types. So right now we're talking about how our reload time is 26 seconds. So if you take this, you switch from HE to, say, armor piercing, it's only going to take 13 seconds to do so, instead of that standard 26 seconds if you already have the guns loaded. So this is probably what I'd recommend first and foremost if you went with a priority target build. Looking at other things here, some other options. This is AA. I still really like this a lot. Then I would say this second. I'm actually just curious to see what does this do with secondaries. It's going to buff us out to 7.1. Not going for a secondary build on our Dunkerque. So I don't necessarily recommend that, but if someone's running it, I'd be interested to know in the comments to get your thoughts. You could also go for Brisk, increase your ship speed, so maneuverability, 29.5 knots. This means you're going to get an additional, if you're undetected, which mind you, it's 14.8 to pull that off. And the maps you are on at tier 6 are rather small, so you probably won't get the most value out of this because of your detectability being rather poor at tier 6. But you would be getting up 2.9. Yeah, 30 over 31. Yeah, over 31. Still, I can't vouch for it. I don't really see anything else here that's worth other points I would recommend. This first and foremost, this second. If maybe you give up the emergency repair expert and you want to go for an attack skill, you could do. No, I still don't think I can say it because your secondaries, you don't get any benefit out of this. So yeah, this or this is really what I'd recommend on Dunkerque. I have a harder time trying to vouch for some of the other skills when I haven't even tried out a secondary build Dunkerque myself. This would be kind of interesting. So yeah, so this is what this would be my first and foremost recommendation, because this setup with the 21-point commander is really, it's the golden key. This is what you're going to find on most battleships players take here in World of Warships. I mean, yeah. So I think we're just going to wrap that up now. I just want to make sure I give you any other helpful inputs and thoughts. So, but I think we've covered everything well. If you have a question about a commander skill I did not discuss, let me know in the comments, and I can respond on that. Dunkerque has been a fun tier 6 battleship for me to play. I really enjoy her. A fairly straightforward play style at tier 6, so just fun playing every once in a while. So if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you did not, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.